Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Athlete and Artist Show. I am the artist Kyle Forch alongside my co-host, professional hockey player Zach Boychuk. No guest this week, but a lot going on in the past since we launched on Rumble last week. The Yotes are getting a new home. We could probably just start off right there. Just insanity happening in the NHL right now, Chucky.
Yeah, it looked pretty sad watching the highlights of that game last night. Obviously, everybody kind of knows that they're moving to Utah and probably be the last game in Arizona for quite some time. And I heard their social media guy got fired and like all this stuff for leaking information, and he might be like
Oh,
the owner's son or something. It's just a complete disaster there. So a little bittersweet for sure.
are you talking about the guy on that was just going on that Twitter rampage?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think he
like
was kind
Bob
of.
McMahon. What is it, McManaman or something like that?
I'm not 100% sure the guy's name, but just sounded like some craziness going on.
I have some of the tweets right here. Some of the tweets he was sending out were pretty funny. Um, he was like tweeting about Nikolai Happy Bulin. He was like, "True story. You know what Happy Bulin told me over the phone from Winnipeg when I asked him if he knew what a coyote was? He's like, Dad is a big cat with claws. Yes." He's just like, "Niet." Like the guy didn't even know
No,
what.
it's a dog actually.
It's a dog. Yeah, he was tweeting out a bunch of stuff last night. Which, yeah, he's I could see why he'd be getting in trouble for leaking some of that info.
Oh no, for sure. But
But
yeah, sad for Shane Doan and all the players that like live
yeah,
there now. Obviously his son plays for the team, and it's just unreal to be in Scottsdale and Phoenix and being around that area. But sounds like they could be moving to Utah.
yeah, and it's crazy how quick it happened too. Because like last week they had just talked about how they did a schedule or two schedules for the Yotes, one for being in Phoenix, one for still being in Utah, and then for it to just happen like that quickly, it just all of a sudden came out. Yeah, the boys were informed that they're moving to Salt Lake.
Yeah, I
Just
felt like a week ago they were talking about purchasing some land in Scottsdale, and then the mayor came out and said no chance that that is happening. And it's just been like, I don't know if the players like saw this coming or what was going on, but it's just been a disaster.
yeah, it's a weird deal. It sounds like too, because it's like the NHL was buying the team from the current owner for like $1 billion, and then reselling it to the Utah Jazz owner for 1.2, but still promising the current Yotes owner that he can have a franchise if he locks down this land and builds an arena within the next 5 years. So it's like, do you kind of think they're maybe banking on him not getting this land and not getting it done, and just kind of saying, okay, well, this is happening. Here's what we're going to try to do for you, but something needs to change right now. We don't have 5 years for you to pull this team out of this dumpster.
Yeah, it sounds like they're kind of off this owner. I mean, maybe they are giving him another chance, but I think Biss and that kind of said the same thing. Like it's bittersweet, and they he wants the Yotes to come back, just probably not with this ownership group.
Yeah, I mean, like unpaid hotel bills. They weren't paying their bills in like one of the previous arenas. There's just been so many issues with this ownership group. It seems like he can't figure it out, and it doesn't seem
Yeah.
like I see it. So many people like, oh, it's so sad the Yotes are leaving, but like, where were all these fans when the arena was half empty? Where are all these fans when Mullet is sitting half empty? Like, so are people
Yeah,
really sad, or are they just wanting to put on some crocodile tears for the cameras?
well, I think they sold out their arena this year, but what was it, only like 4 or 5 thousand?
Yeah, true.
But those fans must be diehards, and I mean, I'm sure when Phoenix or Arizona was doing well and making the playoffs and going
Yeah.
into the Western Conference Finals, I think like they were probably selling it out back then. But I just feel like Arizona just kind of hasn't been relevant the last 10 to 15 years or so.
Yeah, it's tough for the city. Like it seems like it would be a great, I mean, it's definitely a great place to play as a player, to, live out there. You golf all year round, all through the season. Um Obviously, nice weather all the time, but I mean, you'd think that the city or the state would be more supportive. I would feel like over having a pro team out there.
Yeah, it just wasn't a great place for the arena to be. I mean,
Yeah.
I was down there. I was on a PTO there for I think I was there for about a month, played a couple exhibition games and then got released after, but it was just kind of a battle even for me. Like I was living in Scottsdale and it would take 40 to 50 minutes to get into the practice every morning and get to games
Uh,
and stuff. And then there's a practice rink that was really nice and like really close to Scottsdale that we were at all the time. But I guess they just couldn't quite get it going.
didn't they? I heard. I think it was recently. Didn't what? There was something that happened with that practice arena too, wasn't there? Like they weren't paying bills on it, and they had to take it and give it to another group or something like that, or they weren't allowed to practice in there anymore. I don't know if that
Yeah,
was recent.
I think the owner of that rink got in a fight with the new ownership group or something. It's just been a complete mess.
Jeez. How was your experience down there besides like the trip, like making that long commute to the arena and stuff?
It was unbelievable. I mean, if they could make it work and, find a way to keep it down there, I think a lot of players would love to go and live there and play there. And I loved my month or whatever it was there, and I still go there, every couple summers just to get some golf in and get some nice vacation time. Me and my family went and rented a nice house last summer for 10 days and cooked our butts off a little bit. I think it was like 40 degrees every day
Oof,
when we went, but it's a great place to live, that's for sure.
man, it sounds beautiful. I've never been down there, but I've always wanted to get down there. Be nice to golf all through the season too.
Yeah, they got the advantage there. A lot of the PGA pros live down there and get to golf all year round, and um, they got some good spots.
For sure. So we're officially a week into our new Rumble partnership. First episode. So, I mean, kind of caught me off guard uh how much exposure we got. I mean, 87,000 views for the full podcast over the weekend. Uh, I mean, Rumble's it's super supportive so far, man. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, pretty cool. They must have been pumping us on their Explore page and getting our podcast out there. So obviously, some people were interested in what we were talking about. Maybe it was your UFC picks or whatever it was for UFC 300, which actually went pretty well, I feel like.
Yeah, big card. I think we got two out of our parlay was we took the Pens, we took Holloway, we took Pereira, and then we took Zhang Weili, I think, and we hit two of them. That Holloway
Two.
Gaethje fight was crazy.
Yeah, no kidding. Right at the end, just boom.
Just
What a finish.
so unnecessary for Holloway to even have to do that. Up 4 rounds, points to the middle of the octagon, and just starts swinging, and then ends up knocking him out cold. I mean, both those guys were well deserved the 300 and 600,000 bonuses they got.
Oh, for sure. And my Pens let us down. They couldn't make the playoffs and they couldn't get us that win that night. So our
Tough.
our parlay was already hurting to start
Yeah,
off.
man. It was funny. I was like, I think it was the Bo Nickel fight. I think that we won on, and as the first fight of the main card, we won. I was like, sweet, the parlay's looking good. Then I popped over to the Penn score, and I was like, oh, we got about 5 more minutes of this parlay.
Yeah. Our picks will be better with the NHL playoffs, maybe.
Yeah, hopefully we're starting on Saturday, 2 days away. We're filming this on Thursday. Pod will be released Friday night, and here we go. I mean, the hardest trophy to win in sports, NHL playoffs, best time of the year.
I love the first round especially just because there's so
Oh,
much chaos. Like you don't know what's going to happen. There's so many games going on. There's always those good rivalries coming on first too. Like who are you most looking forward to watching?
man, I mean, I'm looking at the bracket right now because they seem to be all set in stone. But I mean, there's some crazy series. Like, I mean, you got Boston Toronto again in the first round. I mean, that's a classic. I mean, Edmonton Vegas. Who knows what's gonna happen in that series? I mean, Vegas has Stone coming back. He's practicing. He's healthy. They've got their entire squad, but I mean, Edmonton's obviously a super talented and a team with, I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl. I mean, I think that's going to be a super high scoring series. And then, I mean, Nashville snuck in there too, which is, I didn't think Nashville was going to make the playoffs at all this year. They kind of just shocked the world. They're playing the Canucks. So that could be a long first round for them, or a quick first round, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, lots of good games. I mean, Florida, Tampa too. Like, that's going to be a crazy first series. Just the physicality of those two teams hate each other. It's going to be exciting. What about you?
Yeah, I think the Florida Tampa one's going to be really good to watch. Obviously, Leafs and Bruins, but I don't know the rematch for Vegas and Edmonton.
Yeah,
I think that'll be the number one thing I'm watching, especially watching McDavid. He looks like he's flying right now. 100 assists this
100
year, and
assists.
obviously they're gonna want to get them back, get Vegas back for beating them out last year.
Do you think the Oilers actually have a shot at winning the cup? Like, do you think they have the
I
goaltending?
want
Or,
to I want to see a Canadian team win, so I
of
think
course,
Edmonton's kind of got the best chance. Obviously, Vancouver had a really good season this year. I'm not really sold on the Leafs. I think they might lose first round, but
yeah.
um, if their goalie's on, I think Edmonton has the best chance.
Man, as much as it pains me to say it, because I've been a Flames fan my entire life. I was born in Calgary. I've always hated the Canucks. Just I've hated the Canucks more than I've loved the Flames for most of my life. But man, do they look good. Like that
Yeah,
team
that's
that team
true.
just they just seem so deep. Like they to me they seem a little bit deeper, at least up front, the forwards wise, especially after getting
Hmm.
Lindholm and a couple pickups at the deadline. But man, I mean, as a Flames fan, you hate to see the Canucks or the Oilers doing well. But the
That's
lesser
true.
the lesser of two evils.
What about Winnipeg? Do you think Winnipeg beats Colorado?
No, I think Colorado smashes them.
It's a tough first round matchup.
That team's just look at what Nate's doing all year too. He's just been on
He's been a
fire, man.
beast.
Our sponsor for this episode is Overtime Markets, the top Web3 sportsbook. Overtime is an industry-leading sports betting platform where users can immerse themselves in the thrilling world of sports. Leveraging the benefits of decentralization and blockchain technology, Overtime leads the charge in sports innovation, all while offering fans juicy money rewards on major sporting events. Overtime supports all the major leagues and utilizes advanced, smart contracts to ensure an elevated user experience. Discover the future of sports betting at overtimemarkets.xyz, where sports and blockchain converge.
So who gets the MVP? Because right now you got, I think it's a
Y-
two-horse race. It might be three if they want to include Matthews. I don't think McDavid's going to win it this year, but
Yeah.
it's pretty much Kucherov or McKinnon, I think. Like both those two guys kind of ran away with the scoring race a little bit,
Yeah, and
and
Cooch, I think,
one
is
of
going
them
to end
had
with it.
100 assists.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, Connor got 100 assists too, but
yeah, isn't that crazy? Two guys after, what was it, 30 years or something like that? Someone hadn't hit 100 assists, and now two guys in one season within the same week. Just
yeah.
the
Well, I
scoring
think it's
is
only
insane.
the fourth and fifth guy to do it, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, in history, which is nuts. McKinnon, maybe I would say maybe he's just been a little bit more valuable to the team. I think Tampa's a little bit deeper than Colorado is now, and I think a lot of those guys have just been performing above what they should. I mean, like Stamkos has what 40 tucks this year, and he's people have been saying
Yeah.
like he's getting older, so it's tough. What about you? Do you think Kutru or McKinnon?
I think they're going to give it to McKinnon just
Yeah,
because he's been so good the last, 5, 6 years. And the fact that he doesn't have one yet is honestly insane. And, but you look at the other side, like Kucherov, I think he has like 30 or 40 more points than the second place guy on his team. So obviously, but
yeah.
he does a lot of it on the power play. So it's like, I think the overall MVP is probably McKinnon, but it's going to be interesting to see. I think if Matthews would have got 70, obviously he got stuck on 69 last night,
Yeah.
but he could have maybe joined the conversation, but obviously those two guys are kind of the front runners, I think.
Do you have a pick for the to win the cup?
I hate making predictions, especially for NHL. I feel like anybody can win. An eighth seed can win. Like it's
Yeah.
I think if there was a team from the East, I'd probably have to take Florida. I think they were so good last year and obviously really good this year. Um, I don't they didn't really add a lot from last year, but I think that experience that they have is going to help them a lot. And then from the West, I I want to take Edmonton. I just think that they're going to go beast mode going through the playoffs, and it might be like a little bit of a biased pick, but um, those are my two teams that I'd love to see in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree with you on Florida for sure. I think Florida's got a chance to win it. I mean, their team is just so good, and like you look how Reinhardt's played this year too. I feel like he's been kind of underrated for so many years. I mean, he was a stud coming out of World Juniors, and then he was kind of just stuck for a few years, in Buffalo and just on underperforming teams. And then he's really kind of come to his own in Florida and really just reignited his game. And you've obviously got him, Kachuk, Barkov, like all these veteran guys now that are seem to be either re-entering their primes or entering their primes for the first time, and they've got a strong team. Um, in the West, just because I don't want to pick Vancouver, I'm going to pick Vegas again to repeat. But I mean, like you said, it's tough. Like you look at a team like LA, like they've done it before. They've entered as an eighth seed and won the cup. So I mean, you
Yeah,
look at teams like that, anyone can really squeak it out. I think Nashville is probably the least likely to go far. Um, but you look at anyone else. I mean, Dallas, Winnipeg, Colorado, Vancouver, Edmonton, and I think any of those teams could go to the finals.
yeah, it's so tight. It's crazy. Like those are all really good teams, and you think like even in the East to have a team like Pittsburgh not make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Detroit was coming on strong at the end. Like I almost
Uh,
feel like they should expand it a little bit and do like a play-in series, kind of like how NBA's been doing. And even in Germany, we have that where it's 10 teams make the playoffs, and if you're anywhere from eighth to 10th, you have like a three-game series, like which makes it a little bit more interesting. It's kind of a disadvantage for the top teams that have to play those teams that like won their play-in series because you've been
yeah.
sitting around for so long. But I think it would add like a little bit extra just because there's any team and any teams really can win. Like teams coming in at eighth seed, they have a chance.
And that's the thing about hockey too, as like comparing it to like NBA is NBA. I feel like is such a just like it revolves around your star players in the NBA too much to win a championship. Whereas obviously the NHL, you have your superstar players, but you can be a team like a Vegas a couple years ago, and all these guys could just buy in, and all of a sudden you're going to the Stanley Cup Finals. What do you think about the playoff format in terms of besides there being a play or a play-in round? What about going back to like one through eight rather than having the divisions like the top three and the wild cards?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that they're trying to get those good rivalries going. Like that's why you get the Toronto and Boston, and you get
Sure.
the Battle of Alberta, and you get even the Florida matchup, the two teams from Florida. So I can see why they're doing it, but at the same time, like you're not really getting rewarded if you finish first or second. You might end up playing,
Right.
a decently seeded team, and it's crazy. Like back in the day, I think they used to do like 1 through 16. So like there'd be a team in the West that would actually make the playoffs, I think, this year if they did that. So it's like I don't know the best way to do it. I think obviously it's tough to do 1 through 16 because of the travel. You might have LA playing Florida, and there's
Yeah.
3 hour time change, and that's a pretty tough way to start the NHL playoffs. But at the same time, like I think they've figured it out. They're trying to create those rivalries early on. Win your division, and it gives the people a chance to do like a bracket and stuff too, where you got to win out, and people can fill that out. So it's good both ways. So what do you think? Which way would you like them to go with it?
I mean, I was always a fan of the 1 versus 8 format. Like you look at a team like Tampa Bay is not a wild card team.
It's crazy.
Who else? I guess Vegas is in third now, but I mean the Nashville Predators have 99 points, which is nuts to me. But they're the first wild card team in the West too. Like it's just I don't know. I get what you're saying about the having the rivalries. I think it does produce or give better overall matchups, but the coming in first place, winning your league or winning the division, winning the conference, like it doesn't give you an advantage anymore. Which and again in hockey, arguably, is there really an advantage because anything can happen? But um, yeah, it's I think at being a first place team, I'd rather play a real eighth place team than Tampa Bay in that first or second wild card spot.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't think home ice advantage is that much of an advantage anymore. Like I think we've seen that quite a bit in the playoffs last year. A lot of the road
Yeah,
teams were winning because, you know, teams are nervous when they're playing at home, especially when you're the higher seed, like all the pressure's on you.
yeah.
You
Look at
might end
Boston.
up losing one of the first couple of games and then you're kind of in panic mode. So it's the home ice is kind of hit or miss. In Germany, we feel like we need the home ice. It's nice playing in front of our fans, but I don't know. In the NHL, it just feels like it's not the same.
Yeah, that's fair, man. It's gonna be an interesting playoffs for sure. There's so many good teams. There's so many. I mean, there's so many players that are just their points are insanity this year. Like the direction the league is going for how offensive it is, it's just. I mean, you think you'd like to think the goalies are getting better, but it's like these players they're just getting even better than the goalies are.
Oh yeah, how many players had over 100 points this year? Like, and guys are getting. There's a bunch of guys that got 50 this year. Obviously, Austin got 69, and um, I think Connor had like 64 or 65 last year. It's just turning into a all offense, kind of no defense league. It's a lot of
Yeah,
young players, and um, you really do need a hot goalie. Like I think that's kind of why Florida made it so far last year is Bobrovsky took over the net and just wouldn't let anything in. So it could happen. That's why I think Nashville's kind of a sneaky like. Does Saros all of a sudden like
yeah.
steal him a bunch of games? Like, is Vancouver going to be nervous with all the pressure of how good their season was? But yeah, it's tough to say. That's what makes the first round so exciting. You got to get the nerves out before teams start playing their game.
There were 9 guys that had over 100 points this year, which is
That's
nuts.
insane.
And that's a good point about Saros too. I forgot to be honest. Like that's he's a really good goaltender. And if he had a better team in front of him, they probably would have had a couple better years in the past few years. But I guess they still have Forsberg. He had 90 some points this year too. Where is he? Sorry, Yossi had 85 and Forsberg had 94. So like I mean that's
Good year. And
like
then Ryan O'Reilly is a pretty good playoff guy to have. So
yeah.
they're
So I
still
mean
young though. I don't know if they have enough firepower, but they've been
yeah.
hot the second half of the season.
They canceled the U2 concert and they went on what a 15 game run or something like
Yeah.
that.
Barry Trotz said, "Oh, you're not going to the Sphere, so you gotta start winning some hockey games." And then boom, they did.
Yeah, that was a crazy run. Um, Chuck, you got anything else besides Stanley Cup playoffs? I mean, obviously you just started your finals, so I mean, we're lucky to even have a podcast episode this week. You guys just started finals.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a busy next couple of weeks. We pretty much play every other day, so
Yeah,
a lot of kind of traveling back and forth to Bremerhaven, and we lost the first game, so we got to win this next game and put up a fight. But no, yeah, I'm excited to be back doing the podcast. Obviously, Overtime, our great sponsor, and our partnership with Rumble has been good, and I'll be looking. I think the playoff starts Saturday, so I don't know if I'll make any bets on Saturday. I think I'm gonna kind of just watch to see how the first games go. And if any like higher seed teams lose that first game, I like to bet on them the second game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm gonna be looking for on overtime market.
Yeah, that makes sense. And they've got a great NHL deal, or NHL promo like they had for UFC. You can win a bunch of money, which will be great. Yeah, I might. I don't know if I'm gonna toss. I might. I have feel like I gotta toss at least one bet for Saturday.
Makes it more interesting when you're watching.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially with like you put a little bit on Nashville, or I wonder if they're playing on Saturday. But even just for the first round, like the first couple of games, you maybe put some on Nashville, put some on LA.
Take
You
some
know,
underdogs. You get better odds,
exactly.
and the other teams might be nervous.
I hate that Washington's in the playoffs. Before we end off, I just want to say that I really wanted to see Detroit in there. I wanted to see Kaner get back in the playoffs. And like Larkin's
I
been
think
doing a lot
well,
better.
Washington had the like worst goal differential since like the 90s or something to make the playoffs, like minus 27, and they made the playoffs for goal differential.
All because Torts had to pull his goalie with 3 minutes left in a tied game.
Thanks, Torts.
Thanks,
I'll take
Torts.
that.
Frick.
Just eliminated three teams with one play. Just here you go. If we can't make the playoffs, then
Yeah,
Detroit, you can.
just hand it to the guys that they're playing. That was
Pittsburgh, you're
tough.
out. Pretty funny.
Before we end off, actually, what since Kaner didn't make the playoffs in Detroit, do you think he just goes back to Chicago?
I'd like to see him go back. I mean, Bedard needs somebody to play with. So, and he proved that he can. He still got it this year. His hip
Yeah.
surgeries went well. So, I'd like to see him go back, but I don't know. Maybe he'll end up in Buffalo, his hometown, or back in
Yeah.
Detroit. I guess we'll see.
I was talking about it with a buddy yesterday, and he was saying that this is the first time that Kaner's really been like 100% in the off season, especially like, or at least in a long time. So he hasn't been able to do a lot of work in the off season because of his hips. And coming into this season, he said he felt 100%, like better than he's felt in years. So this will really be an interesting off season for him to see, how hard he can push and how good he comes back even next season. Because like you said, he had a great year this year coming off the hip surgery. He was almost at a point per game, and next year with a full summer to prepare, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he comes back. 36, 37 years
Yeah.
old, just re-entering his prime. He's got those young
Oh,
hips
yeah.
again.
It's crazy. Like some of these old guys are still doing it. Like Sid, I think he had what, 41 or 42 goals this year. And, some of these older guys are still having career years. Like even like Stamkos, I think he's like 34 and he's getting
Yeah,
40 goals again he's getting obviously in a contract year, and I don't know if he's going back to Tampa. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool to see, how well these guys are staying in shape and playing well at older ages and finding ways to be relevant still.
and it's funny because I think we had this exact same conversation last year when we were doing our playoff predictions, or at least like our season roundup. Like you said, the exact same thing. These older guys are just finding their game again, and they're extending their careers, which is great. Getting a little more money in the bank before they retire. But even just giving some of these teams and these guys chances to end their careers at winning a cup if they haven't already, or go for, in Kane's case, go for one more before they hang it up.
Oh, for sure. That's why I wanted to see like Pittsburgh kind of not do well, so Crosby could go play with McKinnon in Colorado or kind
Could
of
you
go mess
imagine?
around somewhere else. But
Do you think he would leave?
I don't think so. Like he'll probably sign an extension this summer, I would assume, for however long he wants to play, and he'll probably retire a Penguin. But
Yeah.
that team needs to do some retooling for next year because he can't have a playoffs with how well he played this year and Sid not be a part of it.
You got to
But
bring
yeah, you
Yager
got to
back.
think. Yeah, Yogs is playing tonight in the Czech League. Actually, he's back in the
Is he?
lineup. They're in like a relegation for the team that he owns, so they're like in like a must-win situation, or they're going down to the second league. But
He's been over in the
yeah,
U.S. partying for the last 2 months. He decided to fly back home and play.
he just took like a month or two off, did his jersey retirement, and now he's
Yeah.
back playing. But no, you got to thank like the Gary Roberts and the Doug Crashleys and all these trainers that are keeping everybody in shape, and getting us playing into our mid 30s and upper 30s.
Yeah, for sure, man. Awesome. All right, buddy. I've got nothing else for the playoffs on my side. Do you have anything else before we top off here?
No, I think that's it.
Cool, man. Yeah, we'll get some. I mean, I'll get a bet out this weekend for sure. But yeah, thank you to Overtime Markets for sponsoring the pod. Thank you again to Rumble for presenting and hosting the podcast now. And Chucky, good luck this weekend going, continuing finals, and I guess good going into next week too. So we'll hopefully you guys will be up by the time we film next week, and we'll be talking about you closing out the series.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Sounds
All
good.
right, buddy. All right, buddy. Have a good weekend.